President Joe Biden heads to Europe with the hopes of de-escalating the war in Ukraine.
The closer you are to this Russian threat, the more real it is and the more frightening it is.
The new actions he's taking against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Plus, a new leader for Douglas County schools.
I know there is so much conflict in our district, and I will commit myself to work with all 7 board directors.
We're hearing from the new superintendent and parents about the school board's decision. And the Broncos' new quarterback is preparing for the new season. Russell Wilson is already working on chemistry with his receivers.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being in this locker room with these guys.
President Joe Biden is on his way to Europe to meet with NATO allies in an effort to de-escalate the war in Ukraine. He's expected to announce new, tougher sanctions on Russia once he lands in Brussels later today. Thanks so much for joining us for Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Grenauer. Karen Travers has more details about the president's trip and the latest developments in Ukraine.
On his quick trip to Brussels, President Biden is aiming to further unite European allies against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Departing the White House, the president was asked how concerned he is about Russia using chemical weapons in Ukraine.
I think it's a real threat.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says the president at NATO will announce tougher, unified sanctions on Russia.
We believe that it cannot be business as usual for Russia in international institutions and in the international community.
The Pentagon says the summit may also address new security questions, including whether to keep U.S. troops in Eastern Europe for the long term as a deterrence to Russia.
The security situation, the framework here on the European continent is changed, and I think everybody's going to have to deal with that going forward.
Meanwhile, a victory for Ukrainian troops. Officials say they've reclaimed an important suburb of Kyiv from Russian forces, along with control of a key highway, allowing them to block the Russians from surrounding the capital. After 28 days of fierce resistance, a senior U.S. defense official says the Russian military has lost more than 10% of its combat power in Ukraine, and troops are running low on food and fuel, some lacking protective gear, which is leading to Russian soldiers suffering frostbite. New satellite images of Mariupol show smoke filling the sky and civilian areas bombarded by strikes. Thousands remain trapped as supplies such as food, water, and power are running low, but Ukrainian forces are still holding on. And ominously, a spokesperson for Vladimir Putin in an interview with CNN is refusing to rule out the use of nuclear weapons.
If it is an existential threat for our country, then it can be used in accordance with our concept.
The White House says it's monitoring the potential nuclear threat, but the U.S. has not changed its nuclear posture in response. Karen Travers, ABC News, Brussels.
You're looking live from the U.S. Capitol, where confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson enter their 3rd day. This is the last day we'll hear from Judge Jackson herself, and she started the day with a more emotional tone, talking about her close connection to law enforcement and history of public service.
I grew up with family members who put their lives on the line. I worked to protect our country. My brother worked on the front lines, and it was all because public service is important to us.
Jackson spent much of yesterday's 13-hour testimony defending her record. She rebutted misleading accusations by several Republicans that she's soft on crime. She also pushed back on other issues, including her judicial philosophy and her views on critical race theory. Now, tomorrow is the last day of hearings. Top Democrats believe Judge Jackson will be confirmed by early April, but she is not expected to be sworn in until July, which is when Justice Stephen Breyer will step down. Some breaking news to bring you now. Loveland Pass is closed because of an avalanche. It's shut down from I-70 to Montezuma Road. Now, we're working right now to try to get more information. CDOT's cameras, as you're seeing there in the area, do not show the actual slide zone, but again, the pass is closed. Happening right now at the state capitol, lawmakers are going over a 3rd reading for a bill protecting reproductive rights. The Reproductive Health Equity Act passed a 2nd Senate reading late last night after several hours of debate. Now, the bill declares that every pregnant person has a fundamental right to continue the pregnancy and give birth, or to have an abortion. It would also prevent state and local governments from restricting a person's reproductive rights. Colorado is one of several states trying to secure abortion rights as the future of Roe v. Wade becomes uncertain. Lawmakers will also debate two other bills today. One would have rideshare companies like Uber require insurance for their drivers and their riders. It's to protect against damages caused by uninsured drivers. Uber says the bill would increase costs for customers by 6%. Another bill would protect people who live in mobile home parks. The legislation puts limits on how much a landlord can increase rent based on inflation. It also requires landlords to hold public meetings and clarifies that a landlord is responsible for repairing damage to a mobile home. The Douglas County School District has a new superintendent. Overnight, the board voted to give the job to Aaron Kane. As Denver 7's Colette Bordelon reports, the vote came after hours more of public comment.
More than 100 people signed up for public comment at that meeting where the board voted to extend the offer for the superintendent job to Erin Kane. She's been the longtime favorite for that position. But in that same meeting, the board also voted to hire attorneys to potentially prep them for a lawsuit regarding open meeting laws related to the controversial firing of Corey Wise. He was the former superintendent. Right now, Kane is the executive director of schools for American Academy, a public charter school with 3 campus locations. She's also served as the interim superintendent for the Douglas County District before, from 2016 to 2018. At the beginning of the month, during her public interview, she pledged to execute the will of the school board, change the culture of the district, and empower teachers. As superintendent, she'll be leading around 64,000 students in the district. When the new majority on the school board took over, there were allegations their decision to fire Wise was politically motivated. Protests in support of Wise by teachers, parents, and students swept through the district, but Kane says she doesn't see the need for political parties in school leadership.
We can't change the conflict that's in our world or in our country, but I think we can work right here in Douglas County if we all work together to listen to each other, understand each other's concerns. And I would be privileged to lead bridging that divide. I do think we can absolutely bridge the divide and move forward for the thing that we all have in common. Our common cause is and always has been our students.
That was Kane talking to the board virtually right after the vote last night. But we also talked with parents who aren't happy with the board's decision, specifically the way they went about it, saying that's not a lesson they want their kids to learn.
I'm not as confident in her ability to run the school district in the long term as I would be with the other candidate.
Kane was going up against Danny Windsor. He's the executive director of the Parker region of the Douglas County School District. Now, ultimately, Kane obviously beat out Windsor, but some school board members argued Windsor would have been the less divisive choice out of the two. In Denver, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
People in Boulder County are one step closer to having Marshall Fire debris removed from their properties. Boulder County commissioners approved a $60 million contract with a company out of Louisiana to start the job. A team of inspectors will go through neighborhoods before heavy machinery arrives in a week or two. Boulder County will host an online meeting next Tuesday to answer questions about the process. The entire process is expected to take 4 months. CDOT is trying to make I-25 in the gap between Castle Rock and Monument safer for both drivers and animals. This is a live look near the Spruce Mountain interchange. It's been closed for the past 2 weeks, so CDOT can install guards and grates to keep animals from getting on the highway. CDOT says that wildlife underpasses are designed to reduce crashes involving animals and cars by 90%. There are 4 of these underpasses throughout that gap section. Colorado Parks and Wildlife cameras have spotted animals like elk, bears, deer, and rabbits using them so far.
The wider shoulders, the additional capacity with 1 lane in each direction will go a long ways in improving safety. And the wildlife crossings. We had at least 1 wildlife hit a day because wildlife would cross the interstate. Now they're going under the underpasses.
That Spruce Mountain interchange is expected to reopen Friday night at 8. Colorado Congressman Ed Perlmutter is pushing for more clean truck standards. Perlmutter and other elected officials want the EPA to stick to its promises to put in place the strongest possible standards. They also want more investments in clean energy and electric trucks and buses, saying it will create manufacturing jobs here in Colorado. Many Colorado law enforcement agencies are struggling with low staffing, and they're trying to attract new recruits at a job fair happening right now in Littleton. One of those agencies trying to hire officers is Aurora. The department has seen a significant number of officers leave in the past 2 years. This is part of a national trend, with departments having trouble balancing retirements and people leaving the field with getting enough recruits.
I think everybody's feeling the need for qualified applicants and employees to come to their agency. So we're not just only competing with other law enforcement agencies, we're actually competing with the private sector as well.
So here are the details about that career fair. It's at Southwest Plaza in Littleton until 3. 30 law enforcement agencies will be there. And if you can't make it out there today, many agencies have online applications. We're getting our first look at Russell Wilson in orange and blue. Wilson and the Broncos posted these videos on social media showing him throwing passes to KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, and Cortland Sutton. Wilson told Broncos Country Connected host Alexis Perry that he's looking forward to playing in a very competitive AFC West.
I want to play against the toughest opponents possible, so it gets us ready for the last game of the year, and hopefully that's the Super Bowl. And so, if we can win those games and go battle, and the Broncos have always been close. They just need to push through a little bit, and hopefully we can find those margins of error and make them moments, great, amazing moments.
Now, we will likely see more of Wilson in a few weeks. Teams with a new head coach can start off-season workout programs in about a week and a half. That's on April 4th. Well, the Chiefs are the latest team in the AFC West making moves. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Chiefs are trading 6-time Pro Bowler Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. The Chiefs will get 5 draft picks in return. Hill is expected to get a new contract, making him the league's highest paid wide receiver. Well, still ahead, lake levels at the country's 2 largest reservoirs are dropping, and the lack of water is impacting millions of people who rely on water from the Colorado River.